This meeting of Monroe Township Board of Education is now in session. I'd ask everyone to please rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Gorski. Roll.
Mrs. Arminio. Mr. Chiarella. Mrs. DeMayo.
Here.
Mrs. Koloponowicz. Mrs. Lang.
Here.
Mr. Pelori.
Here.
Mr. Ryback.
Here.
Mrs. Siegel.
Here.
Mr. Tefano.
Here.
And Mr. Rutsky.
Here.
Mr. Board President, you have a quorum present this evening.
Thank you.
And
Statement.
in accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law, the Monroe Township Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted July 12, 2019 at all schools, the Home News Tribune, Cranberry Press, and filed with the clerk of the municipality.
Thank you very much. Now we can move to number 5, approval of minutes. I'd like a motion to approve the special public Board of Education meeting, May 30th, 2019.
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
Any discussion, question? We'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any against, opposed?
I abstain.
Abstain, recusal?
Recuse.
Okay.
Or
Motion to approve the closed session meeting of May 30th, 2019.
So second.
Second, okay. Any discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I see that again. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Recusal, abstain?
abstain.
Abstain, okay. Special Board of Education meeting, June 11th, 2019.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Any discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Recusal? Abstain? All right, good, everybody. Closed session meeting, June 11th, 2019.
So moved.
Second, anyone?
Second.
Okay. Well, any question or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed or abstentions? No? Okay. Ready to go. All right, now we have a presentation. I think Dr. Avik is going to be taking this on harassment, intimidation, and bullying.
Okay, so each year we're required to report out on our HIB report card twice a year. So this is our report for the first half of this calendar year. This is done by calendar year, so this is January 1st through June 30th is the reporting period. And then we will do another one next January, reporting on the second half of the year. So basically, as part of the law, the superintendent shares all HIB cases with the Board of Education in closed session at the board meeting immediately following the the conclusion of the HIB investigation. But this is an overall breakdown of our cases for this year. Just so everyone knows, this presentation was shared with the Board of Education prior to the meeting, but it will be on our district website tomorrow. This is the law as it pertains to HIB. So this is the New Jersey law. It's very clear on what is considered HIB as we go through our investigations when a claim is made. There are also very specific guidelines for all investigations. And in order for it to be a founded HIB, it must meet all of the requirements of the law. We have our HIB specialist in each school, and our district anti-bullying coordinator is Lori McConnell. So for our district data, from January to June of this year, we had 43 reports of HIB, 30 were founded, 11 were unfounded, and 2 were unfounded inconclusive. Again, this is all part of the definitions that are listed in the law. Of the founded HIB incidents, there were, you can see the breakdown there of how many were at each school. We also have to look at, and something that we look at as a district, is how the HIB that are founded, so these are for the founded claims, what the breakdown is for the HIB claim, whether it's whatever the distinguishing characteristic is, whether it's race, ethnicity, color, religion, ancestry, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, medical condition, disability, or other. Now, there you'll see our total for Monroe Township, and we're comparing it to last year at this time. This year's report is, we had 52. I know I said 43, and 30 founded. There may be multiple students, multiple perpetrators in the claim. That's why the numbers are different. So we take a look at that, and we actually look at it as a district, as the affirmative action officer in the district. This is something that I take very seriously, and take a look and see if there are any patterns, anything that's going on within each school. This is also done at each school through their school safety team. Again, we break it down by the victim ethnicities. And again, we're comparing last year's, to the fall of last year to the spring of this year. Then the state then has us complete a self-report card, and this is what needs to be posted on the district website. There are 78 points maximum, and this is based on us following all of the criteria for the law, having all of the personnel in place, making sure we're meeting all of the timelines for all of the investigations, and that we're doing education for the students and the families in the district on what HIB is, and we have programs in place for character education and anti-bullying. So you can see there our district grade is a 76 out of 78, which is very good. So this will be posted on our website, and it's broken down by each school. When a case is found at HIB, discipline is determined by the code of conduct in each school, but we also provide remediation for any of our offenders or victims as needed, usually through our guidance department, who are our HIB coordinators. We have multiple layers for remediation. We have individual remediation for individual students or small group counseling. We also do many guidance lessons or classroom-based activities. The teachers do a wonderful job with their curriculum of incorporating community building within their classrooms. We also have school assemblies and programs like our character education programs. We have assemblies, our Challenge Day assembly here at the high school. And we also work very closely with the Monroe Township Police Department and our DARE program, and work with our police department through law enforcement, so we have community inclusion also. We have many, I could probably go on and on about our HIB programs and different things that we do in our districts for character education, but these are just a few that we have in our schools. We do share the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights with students every year. There's an assembly done at each school. That's a requirement of the law, but it's something that we do take very seriously. We do talk about cyberbullying. We talk about community building, character building, peer relations within our schools, parent education, Board of Education training, staff training. We also talk about the strategies for bystanders, because we want to make sure that we're supporting bystanders to stand up for other students, or if they see something going on, how do we support them also? Conflict resolution. In the fall, there's a week of respect that all schools look at and have different activities throughout the week. The high school does their Challenge Day assembly, which is a wonderful assembly for our students. I've been able to participate in that a couple of times, and it's a very moving day, it's a very emotional day, but it really opens up communication between students and really recognizing that everyone has something that they're dealing with and making sure that we're accepting of that. So it really works on acceptance. And all of our schools have some sort of a character education program, and depending on the school, it looks different in each school and depending on the community there. That is our HIB report.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Alvey. And that moves us to a closed session resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Township of Monroe hereby moves to go into closed session in accordance with the Sunshine Law, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, NJSA 10:4-6 through 10:4-21, to discuss the following subjects: matters falling under the attorney-client privilege, including proposed confidential settlement agreement involving student 91351. Following closed session, action may be taken. The discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public at such time as the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Can I get
So moved.
move second? All in favor? Any discussion? I'm sorry. Any discussion? All in favor? In favor?
Aye.
Could we get a vote in favor? Any opposed, refusals? Okay, we'll be back in about 10 minutes. Okay, thank you. Okay. We're back in session. See the beautiful little baby in the back? Future student. That's right. Okay, I do have a motion to read. I'll make the following motion. Whereas NJAC 6A:3-1.13D requires that a Board of Education provide a resolution authorizing settlement indicating that the District Board of Education has consented to the terms of the settlement. Be it resolved that the Board hereby consents to settlement with Family and Student Identification Number 91351, pursuant to the terms of the release and settlement agreement attached hereto, and authorizes the Board of Education President, Ms. Kathy Koloponowicz, to execute the agreement on behalf of the Board. Do I have so move the second?
Second.
Okay. Any questions, comments? All right, Mr. Gorski?
Mrs. DeMayo,
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel,
Yes.
Mr. Tofano,
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky, Mrs. Arminio,
Yes.
Mr. Ryback,
Yes.
Mr. Pelori,
Yes.
Mrs. Lang.
Yes.
Mr. Board President, motion passes.
Very good, thank you very much. Now we can move on to item number 8, committee reports. Any committee chair would like to report?
Yes.
Mr. Mayo?
We had a curriculum committee meeting before this. We discussed 3 things. We have a updated Dynamics of Algebra 2 curriculum document. This is the class that comes after Algebra AB, which we discussed last month. Algebra, both 1 and 2, is the foundation of all high school mathematics courses. This course, the Dynamics of Algebra 2, typically follows Algebra AB, Dynamics of Geometry courses for students where math is a challenge. It follows the New Jersey Student Learning Standards, and some topics that it covers are linear equations, relations and functions, quadratic functions, polynomials, inverse and radical functions, exponential and logarithmic functions. Conics have been now taken out of this class and are now done in geometry. Basic concepts are emphasized initially with a transfer to modeling real-life applications. Students have the guidance of a teacher for immediate feedback as they work. Student-centered group work is encouraged, allowing for multiple avenues of support. The second topic we discussed is a new high school biology book. The textbook's called Biology Concepts and Connections, 9th edition, and it will be delivered digitally through the iPad. The current Monroe Township High School teachers were pleased with the selection and were involved in its vetting and selection. The standard for biology textbook aligns directly with the AP resources provided by the district. Additionally, the book is driven by the national Next Generation Science Standards. The teacher resource platform is deep in its breadth and resources. For example, active reading guides, the digital book is completely interactive and are embedded with a variety of media. The third thing we discussed was the kindergarten report card update. So there was a few changes made to the kindergarten report card. 3 line items were removed. Recognizes uppercase letters, recognizes lowercase letters, identifies letter sounds in isolation. These were removed not because we don't teach them and the children don't learn them, but they're doing this in other areas, so it's really not relevant here. They learn these, and the teachers can evaluate the students doing these using the DRA and the MAP testing that we currently use. And we also eliminated completes homework on time because of the new homework policy. kindergartners don't get homework. And these changes were brought to Dory by the kindergarten teachers. So this is something the teachers wanted, and it makes a more efficient report card.
Thank you. Any other committee chair? Ms. Lang?
So we met for the policy committee, and tonight we're going to be voting on there's 2 regulations and 1 policy that we'd actually approved as a committee, but never were presented to the board, so they'll be presented tonight to the full board for a vote. We also have a new policy, 9400, news media relations, and this was brought to Dr. Alvick's attention by our board attorney, and it required language revisions to delineate who was permitted to speak on behalf of the board to media representatives, and the additional revisions were made to the policy to ensure that our staff members' First Amendment rights are protected. We also elected to reaffirm policy 0134, board self-evaluation, with no changes, which Mr. Ryback will be speaking about later on, board self-evaluation. And we updated the committee on the smoking, vaping, substance abuse policy. The state just released their guidance last Monday, and Dr. Alvick shared that packet with all the board members, and we are going to be working with Mary Smith for wording on our policy, and we're going to have a meeting with the middle school and high school principals and administrative teams so that we can come up with an appropriate policy for our district. We also did a quick update on the request to investigate the board policy regarding seatbelts on school buses for field trips. When we determined that it is actually not in the field trip policies, it's not addressed there. We believe it's addressed in the transportation policy. So we're going to be looking at what we need to do to make sure our students are safe when they go on field trips, since many contracted buses do not, if you use a coach bus, they are not equipped with seatbelts. So we have to decide and make some decisions on that. And we are moving forward with our reaffirmation and our update of our policy book, and we've actually finished a complete section. So, it sounds like maybe we should have done more, but there is a lot of work in reaffirming and going through the policy book. So,
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Lang? Ms. Sumner. I'm sorry, Ms. Sumner, did you have a question also for Mrs.?
No, that's fine.
Okay, I thought I
Thank
saw
you.
that.
Yes, I read the board self-evaluation policy. I thought that was great, especially the section where it says, we would like to have a systematic program of self-evaluation and appraisal, and our responsibilities are both to know our weaknesses and our strengths. I thought that works really well for the board. On the new policy, the media, I'm going to read it again. I made some notes, but one of the things I think is really important, and the citizens and employees should know, is speaking as a private citizen is still a right, and I'm glad it's in this policy so people know that they can speak, but they have to be clear about speaking as a private citizen. So I think that's wonderful. I would always want our First Amendment rights of staff members and even board members in any situation to be upheld. On the other one, the regulation of 3212, the certified staff attendance review and improvement plan, on that one, I was hoping that we might reevaluate the language, since I think you have it not as a new policy to be read, but just to reaffirm it. So I'm wondering if we can change on implementation. It's talking about the implementation of attendance, and it talks about, on D, the principal may require teachers to evaluate the work done by substitutes in their absence. I'm not sure how I would like that reevaluated. I'm not sure how a teacher could evaluate the substitute if the teacher is absent. So I don't know if that needs clarification. But I would hope that instead of may, they shall, that the principal shall, or at least either the principal shall require maybe supervisors to evaluate the work done by substitutes in their absence. This is when the teacher is absent, we have a substitute. I know over the years, even before I was on the board, that many parents are concerned in some cases, and I know substitutes sometimes come last minute. I think what they have, the minimum, an hour and 15 minutes in order to call in to be absent. So I know that's a very short window to get a substitute. But on a regular basis, substitutes, there have been complaints sometimes, just, you know, not all substitutes, again, I want to make it clear, that children are given movies, they're not really taught the subject matter. So I think it should be that the principal shall require either supervisors or maybe vice principals to evaluate the work done by substitutes in the absence of the teachers, because I think it's critical not to have any, you know, change in instruction or, you know, a time frame where instruction isn't being given. So I would ask that the committee take a look at that and work with the superintendent and the other members to look at that, and maybe some teachers or principals. So that's regulation 3212.
Okay, I just want to respond real quickly to that. We do have a process in place for all of our subs and our teachers. Our subs actually write a reflection at the end of the day back to the teacher through, we actually use ASAP to do that, so that the substitute is actually saying whether the teacher left enough plans, or maybe there were more plans needed, and then gives the teacher an update on the classroom. The teacher also does the same thing, because a teacher can go back and evaluate the next day whether the work was done, whether the plans were completed, and believe me, the students do share. So I don't know if it would be possible for a building administrator to observe every sub all the time during the day, especially in some of our elementary schools where we have one administrator in there at a time, because we share assistant principals, and supervisors are K-12. So I'm not sure if that would be a feasible thing to say shall instead of may.
Well, may means it doesn't have to happen at all.
Right.
I mean,
It is happening, because ultimately the principal is responsible for the personnel in their building, even subs.
Okay.
And we
Well-
do evaluate subs. We have removed subs from the district.
Okay. Because like I know it, parents are very frustrated when their kids come home and say they've watched a movie. They may be happy to have watched the movie, but it's irrelevant to the subject matter, and/or they really aren't getting taught. I mean, we've all had those experiences. We actually, you know, a lot of kids love those kind of substitutes because they get a free day. But I think that it's our responsibility to make sure our instruction is consistent.
And our substitutes do go through training. They're required to
Okay,
go through
but then
training.
that stuff still happens,
Oh,
so we
agreed.
need to be vigilant about that. Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Pulloy?
This question is for the policy committee. I believe over the past couple of weeks or so, there were at least 3 or 4 emails coming from middle school regarding gym dress code. And there's a lot of confusion with the parents, and a lot of us reached out to various members. I don't recall anything being voted upon by this board in terms of the dress code for the gym. I just would like to get a little bit more information on how this came about in terms of requiring and then asking partial and then taking the policy away. So my question to Patty is, did that go through the policy committee?
I can tell you, we don't have a dress code policy. What we have is guidelines in our handbooks and our what's that word? Our
Student handbook, code of conduct.
books, and that say what you're supposed to wear for gym class and things like that. But I think I'm going to turn it back over to Dory to give a bit more, to Dr.
I
Alvick.
was going to say, I think
Yeah,
that
to give
should come
more
from the
information on
superintendent.
that, but you're correct, we don't have a policy that says this is what, you have to wear these colors for gym or for any dress in school.
My understanding is it came from the school because the staff wanted the students to be dressed appropriately for PE class. I did not learn about it until after it went out. I was not aware of it. But it has been rescinded.
The only reason I bring it up is that there's a perception in the public, and some of the parents said, is this the way the board is going to try to make more money by forcing them to buy the dress from the school itself? So thank you. Thanks for the response.
Anybody else? Mr. Tufano?
I'm going to do my committee meetings.
Okay. BG&T?
Yes.
Okay.
On July 9th, the Buildings and Grounds Committee met. We had an update on the flashing school sign projects at the Monroe Township High School and Middle School. Administration provided committee members with correspondence from the project design engineer, Bill Edwards, regarding speed limits proposed for Perrinville Road. The committee concurred with Mr. Edwards' recommendation of 25 miles per hour along Perrinville Road, and requested the administration proceed with the regulatory approval process through the township and county. The committee further requested that in lieu of installing the flashing signs in the school zone, that only would be operational during occupied school hours, that a 25-mile-per-hour sign with a digital readout be substituted. This sign would alert drivers to their actual speed, alerting them to speeding, and it would be operational 24 hours, 365 days a year. Administration will direct Edwards Engineering to explore the alternate option. We also had an update on the Monroe Middle School water heating system replacement project. Administration provided an overview of the project and progress photos. Substantially completion of this project is August 23rd, 2019. Also, one of the 2 air conditioners is out in the middle school. We're sending it out to bid and hoping to resolve it in a timely fashion. We have an update on the security vestibule project. Administrator provided an update on the contracting process and noted that the contractor has mobilized and will undertake demolition work starting this week. That is a promise that we made to the parents in the district, and we're trying to keep that promise. We are keeping that promise. Rutgers Cooperative Extension Water Resource Program. At the April 17, 2019 committee meeting, administration provided an overview of a grant program for a rain garden project at the middle school and an overview of the project that the district would be requesting. Administration advised that the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection has agreed to fund the rain garden project in the area between the Performing Arts Center and the middle school building, and providing concept design photos for the committee to review. The committee will recommend accepting this grant and have administration proceed with the project. We also discussed the Oak Tree SRAC program, that's the solar panels on the roof. Administration provided a handout of financial performance of the solar system at Oak Tree since its inception. It is estimated that the cost of construction will be fully offset in 5 years. From that point forward, all energy savings and revenue from the SRAC sales will be 100% profit. That saves the district a lot of money. We had an overview of the typical trailer project timelines. Administration advised that they will be meeting internally this week to begin planning for trailers for next year. This is a lengthy process with regulatory approvals, design, construction, and delivery of trailers. The committee requested that unhoused student data that was provided during referendum marketing be furnished at the next committee meeting to guide decisions making. Administration noted that if the board intends to provide new trailers for school year 2020-2021, that formal direction to proceed with design regulatory submissions must be authorized by the September board meeting. We had a little discussion about the Applegarth school infrastructure. We were provided some photos of deteriorating infrastructure piping at Applegarth School. The main building is 83 years old and has not seen any renovations or improvement at that address for its infrastructure. Administration informed the committee that previous referendum had considered infrastructure work at the school, but those projects were tabled for further consideration. In 2010, a facelift was given to the school to convert it from a middle school to an elementary school for reopening in 2011. However, no infrastructure work was completed at this time. Administration is growing increasingly concerned and requested that the board consider capital expenditures for this facility. We also discussed land at the Eagle River Day Camp. Administration provided a site plan drawing for the site on Perrinville Road, which formerly housed Eagle River Day Camp. I presented various ideas to the Monroe Township Board of Ed to potentially lease this site or have it developed for district needs by the current property owner. I will have the owners of that facility meet with us at the next BG&T meeting to see how we could bring some income into the district and expand our programs here And that's it, that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Tufano. Any question for Mr. Tufano? Mr. Mayo?
You talked about reducing the speed limit on Prineville Road to 25 miles an hour.
Right.
Where would that start, and where would it, how far, would it be from the middle school all the way to the end of the high school?
It's gonna be from the beginning of the middle school to, from the beginning of the high school
Right,
to where the sign is now, basically, right past the rear entrance, the rear drop-off facility of the middle school.
okay.
So it's pretty much the same areas, we're just
Okay.
dropping the speed limit.
And is that a county road or a township road?
It's a county road, but the county kicked it down to the township to approve.
Okay, all right.
They said, do whatever you want, you know,
Okay,
it's your
because
school.
sometimes the county can take
And
a long
also, I failed to
time.
mention, the township has also agreed to pay for those signs.
Oh, good.
And we also found out that they could be run by solar lights, by solar panels, so that would cut down on the cost significantly, because we don't have to run power to them.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. President?
Yeah, I would like to report on the Education Advocacy Committee.
Mr. Pelori, just
sorry.
1 second. I failed to provide Mr. Tufano with a resolution regarding the speed limit reduction. If you wouldn't mind, sir, just.
No, I have it, I was gonna do that next.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so you're still on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have to make a motion here. I hereby move that the Monroe Township Board of Education authorize the Business Administrator, Board Secretary to transmit correspondence on behalf of the Board of Monroe Township seeking the township approval of a reduction in the speed limit in the school zone on Prineville Road in Monroe Township from 35 to 25, dated July 17, 2019.
Is there a second?
Second? So moved. Okay, we'll take a
Second.
roll call vote?
So motion made by Peter Tufano, second by Patty Lang.
Yes.
Mrs. Lang,
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo,
Yes,
Mrs. Arminio,
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel,
Yes.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky,
Yes.
Mr. Pelori,
Yes.
Mr. Tufano.
Yes.
Mr. Board President, motion passes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Tufano. Any other committee chair? Mr. Pelori?
Good evening, everyone. On Thursday, July 11th, the Education Advocacy Committee met. That included Stephen Ryback, Jill DeMayo, Dr. Alvik, and Mr. Groski, and myself, and we discussed the various items on this. The committee has been progressing. The first was a letter to the state legislators on June 24th. We sent out letters to various elected officials throughout the state, from the governor all the way down to the Commissioner of Education. And that letter is actually posted on the district website. We also discussed about the RFP to hire a law firm to sue the state, and that has been progressing relatively slower to my expectations, but I do understand that there's a tremendous amount of pressure on the board attorney responding to the Oprah requests that are coming in at a very fast pace. So finally, I believe on Friday, July 12th, it has been advertised, and we're hoping to get the bids by the end of this month, and then we'll get them on board and see what avenues that we have for Monroe Township School District to sue the state. On June 27th, a meeting has been facilitated by Assemblyman Dan Benson, for which Mr. Groski, Dr. Alvik, and Ms. Allen and myself attended to meet up with the Commissioner of Department of Education. We made a strong pitch about our situation financially and the growth needs that the district is facing. And we had an ask to see what the Department of Education Commissioner can do for us. Obviously, it's beyond the budget, so we asked for a minimum number of $500,000 for emergency reserve. I believe that we got a fairly positive response, that the commissioner said he's going to look into it. And we also invited the commissioner to come back. I believe he's from Carteret, and he has remembered Monroe from almost 35 years ago. So we said it's not the same Monroe anymore, so he should come and take a look at it. And he said he will certainly do that. And hopefully we'll start building a relationship with the Department of Education and see what we could do from that perspective. The last item I have is that we have been invited by the Roosevelt Public School to come and look at their facility. The reason for that being that they've had a severe reduction in state aid under the S2, and they wanted to see if anybody is interested in moving into sharing the facilities. But upon looking at some of the logistics and everything else, the board the committee that visited the school decided that that's not going to be practical. So that's all I have on from the
Thank you,
education.
Mr. Pelori. Any question for Mr. Pelori? Any other committee chair?
Finance.
Mr. Rutsky.
So, a couple things from the finance meeting. First, we discussed, Mr. Gorski gave us an update on the audit, what's called the application for state school aid, the ASSA, is getting underway for the school year that just ended, June 30th. The next step of that audit will be reviewing all the district's minutes, not only to verify compliance of minute-keeping requirements, but also extracting the bid awards, tracing the awards to purchase orders and contracts all the way through to the paid bill to make sure they reconcile. So that's an interesting place to start, and I'm sure they'll see everything's in very good order there. Next, we talked about the New Jersey CUSAC and an update there on what's called the fiscal indicator, is the score that's given to just the financial section of the school district. And the great news is we earned a perfect score of 100. And what that indicates is that all required documentation substantiating the many indicators of the fiscal management sections were presented for audit and were found to be satisfactory. So 100 on that. And actually that's on the agenda tonight on Board Action F. There's a few other categories as well, but this just pertains to the finances. Great news on our lease purchase. We put a bid out for $2.8 million worth of educational equipment, transportation equipment, and facilities equipment. And we did get 3 bids back, and we gave the award to Bank of America, was the lowest bid at 2.01% for 5 years. So that's a really attractive interest rate for 5 years. So that'll now start taking place. Probably the most exciting part, and I mean exciting part, of the finance meeting was when we went through the specifics on the Falcon Care and the early childhood enrichment programs. And so for the year that just ended, great news is there was combined net income of $609,000. And so we were running close to $500,000 over the last few years. There's a jump of $126,000, or 26% to put it into percentages. That's a great continued program, 2 great programs that are continuing. Attendance-wise, Falcon Care has 310 students, and the ECE had 104 students as of the close of the school year. So those programs are very popular, doing very well, and it's great to have that extra money to be able to reallocate it and put to other uses throughout the district. Maybe interesting, maybe exciting is the New Jersey Department of Education 2020 Appropriations Act update. And so basically on that, I say maybe because it's all a big giant question mark, but the state is talking about adding roughly $50 million to the state aid, and there's a good chance that that's going to flow through as what's called extraordinary aid, which is with regards to our special needs population. And it looks like it may come into play with where tuitions are greater than $50,000 per student, where they may cap our expense at $50,000 and we may get aid for any of the balance over and above that. So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have an update with some positive numbers on that as time goes by. And then the last thing we talked about, which Peter touched on, is the air conditioning unit at the middle school. So unfortunately, that looks like that is dead on arrival, and estimated cost looks to be $60,000, which is unbudgeted for and will require public bidding. So unfortunately, throughout the summer is too quick, and the project is not anticipated to be completed until October. So hopefully we have a mild September and the middle school can manage. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
All right, You said that the state is talking about adding 50 million for special ed, and this would be for tuition greater than 50,000. Is that 50,000 per student?
Per student,
Per student, okay.
is how I understand it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
One thing that I forgot to mention, that I know there's a lot of folks in the public that are interested in the school funding formula. It definitely seems like the Commissioner of Department of Education is going to start looking at it from September onwards, and it's definitely taking some traction in Trenton, so that's a good news. I don't know when it's going to be done, but certainly it's a positive note.
Mrs. Arminio, did you
Yeah,
have-
I don't have my documents, I think I spoke to it last meeting, but of the Department of Education, that 50 million isn't, I don't want anybody to think it's just coming to Monroe. That's going to be dispersed around the state. But also, I believe that they're going to be taking $20 million out of that, so the available monies, again, to be dispersed in the state is going to be 30 million. So that whole 50 million is not going to really be available. It's going to be, I think, something that we would be eligible for would only be within the $30 million that they've allocated.
Yes.
And then we're not guaranteed anything. I just
Well
want to
said.
be clear about that. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Any other committee chair?
Peter just passed on to me, and one resolution we discussed at the BGNT was the board to make a resolution to the council requesting that some missing sidewalks be constructed. Thereby, it provides us with the option of, if there's a courtesy busing eliminations in the future, at least there are sidewalks to go by. I did bring it up at the planning board requesting this, and the planning board suggested that there's a resolution from the board to do that, so.
Well, you could consider that during other board business, if that's what you
Oh,
want to
okay.
do. I just don't think this is the time, unless you're going to bring
Well,
it up as part of your...
discussed in the committee meeting,
So you- so- Well, you didn't bring it up in your
Yeah,
portion,
I
but
apologize.
you could do that now if you want to.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
it's the committee.
You want to do it now?
I would, yes.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and ask the township to take some money out of that out of their program to build some sidewalks where they're much needed around the schools.
Is that a resolution?
Is
Is that a
that
motion?
the motion?
I'll second it. Or-
Can I make the resolution?
Yeah, you
if
can
don't
make
mind?
that, yeah.
I think the intent here is that there are certain areas closer to the school district, to the school facilities that do not have sidewalks. I guess the resolution that we'll look for is that we would like to authorize the administration to explore what sidewalk areas are missing in the close vicinity or within the 2 miles of the schools, and prepare a memorandum on behalf of the board to be passed on to the
So-
township.
Mr. Pelori, there was a motion on,
on the
that was raised, so now you want to...
He's amending the motion.
Make an
I'm amending
amendment
the
to that
motion, yeah.
motion, so if that's what you want to do, I think you should...
He said he asked me to make the
You-
motion.
Yeah, he made the motion. So you can strike mine and just
You
use
want to
his.
withdraw your motion?
That's fine, yeah.
Okay.
I withdraw my motion.
That's fine.
Okay.
So
All
what's
right.
the motion?
So, could you repeat that again? Did you get it?
I got it.
Okay, could you repeat it?
A motion to authorize the district administration to prepare a letter requesting the township to install sidewalks within the 2-mile radius from the school facilities where they're missing sidewalks.
Okay, and we have a
Second.
second for that? All right, any questions, comments?
And this, I do have questions.
Yes.
This is for every school?
Mhm.
We're asking them, okay, okay, good.
Okay. I guess we could take a roll call.
And just for further explanation, there is a reserve fund that the township has with available funds for these sidewalks, isn't that correct?
That's
That
correct.
is correct. And to respond to Ms. DeMayo's question, I believe within the available funding. In other words, if you're trying to put sidewalks onto the high school, I don't think the funding may or may not be adequate. So within the available resources, we want to explore what can be done.
Okay, yeah, because you don't know, okay.
I just want to make one comment. I think in the future, if this is possible, I think when builders submit plans for developments, those plans have to include sidewalks. Those plans have to include roads that are wide enough for school buses to go in, and I've said this before, make U-turns, because we've had problems last year especially with, and rightfully so, people coming in the cul-de-sacs, the buses couldn't make the turns, and they had to be out on Forest Gate Road. It's a highly traveled and dangerous road. We need the township to really think about this when builders submit plans for future developments?
Mr. Rayback, I think I mentioned this several times, and I'm going to repeat myself one more time, that the planning board does not give waivers to sidewalks. Either we ask the developer to do the sidewalks, or at least contribute to a fund where the sidewalks are deemed
And
not.
I'm not asking about the planning board. When a builder submits a plan, he submits it to the town council first, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
No.
no. It goes to the
They don't-
engineer and then comes to the planning board.
They don't do an impact analysis to the to the town council?
Town
That's
council
what they
does
should do, but they
I
don't.
believe they do.
Not to the council
I thought they
first.
did.
No.
Ms. Arminio?
But, I could be corrected if I'm mistaken, but also, just so our citizens know that that fund is contributed to by the developer. If they are not going to build, if they are not going to build the sidewalk, they will put money into the fund, I believe, for use. However, I agree, and I've been stating that, and actually, citizens of Monroe who go to the planning board and zoning boards are very vocal often enough about requesting that sidewalks be put in. So I think it's incumbent upon citizens as well, just like they come here to the Board of Education, that they go to the planning board, especially when a big development's coming up, because inevitably, if there's not going to be a school there, there may be one soon. And I think at this point in the development of Monroe, we're sadly, in my personal opinion, we're no longer a rural community. We're more like a suburban to getting close to urbanizing. And I think that we're going to need sidewalks just about everywhere. So I would
think we'll
agree.
I mean, whatever the process is, when the plans go in,
Right.
whichever agency,
You
those
would-
plans
Yeah,
have to include.
instead of the
sidewalks.
citizens having to compensate for it down the road when the builders have, taken their profits out of the community, I think it's time that they put those sidewalks in now.
Any other discussion? I guess we could take a vote now, Mr. Gorson.
Yes, sir. Mr. Fleury,
Yes.
Mrs. Arminio.
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo,
Yes.
Mrs. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky,
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel,
Yes.
Mr. Tofano.
Yes.
Mr. Board President, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay. Now we can move on to item number 9, which is public forum. Let me just state that this portion is for agenda items only. You have 4 minutes at the microphone. I respectfully ask that you respect and honor that time limit. Anybody from the public would like to address the agenda? Yes, just state your name and address, please, for the record.
Good evening. My name is Claudia Lunan, and I live at 136 Bank Street in Red Bank. With me here tonight is my husband, Jeff, and our daughter, Sienna. Tonight I have come here with my family because on the agenda you will be voting to accept my resignation. The reason for my resignation is not because I haven't loved working in this district for the past 3 years, but rather because in May, our family grew with the addition of our beautiful daughter, Sienna. Teaching has always been my calling, but at least for now, I have a different calling, and that is to finally be a mother. I say finally because our road to meet Sienna has been a long and at times painful one. But today I stand here complete, and that road has now faded in the distance behind us. My name might sound familiar because you have already voted on my original parental leave request. While these leave requests are often and routinely voted on, mine was unique because our daughter was born through surrogacy. I recognize that this request was complicated by the fact that we might have been the first family in the history of Monroe employees to have become parents through the gift of surrogacy. However, I assure you, we won't be the last. This is the reason I'm here tonight. Over the last 5 years, my journey to motherhood has included 8 rounds of IVF, 9 miscarriages, hundreds of hormone injections, 2 surgeries, 4 egg retrievals, 3 DNCs, and mental trauma that I'm still working to recover from. These unsuccessful attempts at pregnancy led me to pursue gestational surrogacy out of medical necessity. I am here to urge this board to adopt a policy that expands upon the classification of maternity leave requests to be equally and wholly inclusive of surrogacy. Maternity leave is defined as a period of absence from work granted to a mother before and after the birth of her child. You see, for me, when I first read that I was being granted leave under the term child rearing, as opposed to the set policy of traditional maternity leave, it made me feel as though my journey to motherhood was not equal or as whole as any other expecting mother. Despite expressing this to the central office administration, the wording and designated benefits were not changed for me. Little things like being told I was not allowed to use my sick days because I wasn't physically pregnant, despite the fact that I had to attend every single doctor's appointment with my surrogate. For me, it felt belittling and dismissive of my journey. It is this feeling I hope no other teacher and expecting mother ever has to feel. But I'm not here to litigate the past. Like I said, I'm now officially complete, and the rocky road behind me has faded away, but that same road lies ahead for many women, and some might just end up teaching in Monroe. And you have the power here to make that road just a little less painful and a little more fair. Please, as a mother and always as a teacher, please see that this is fixed. Thank you.
Thank you. And congratulations. So, thank you very much. Anyone else from the public?
Prakash Purap, 33 Dana Drive. First of all, in the agenda, I noted that Mr. Goodall is leaving us as a principal. So I would like to, the item is here on page 7, and mostly I'd like to appreciate Mr. Goodall's contributions towards our high school. You know, he was very approachable, and what level that he has brought up the school, so we have to appreciate and acknowledge that. And also, going to the other topics of today's discussions, really appreciate a lot of good things happening in the committee meetings. And thank you, all the chairs of the committee meeting, for giving the reports thoroughly. Thank you for taking out-of-the-box thinking many of the time. So please continue to do that. Because of 4 minutes, I have very few comments and some questions. The air conditioning in the middle school will not be working. And you know, that is the concern. You all know that. I'm not, you all are expert, the mold. The mold development will take place, and then we spend a lot of money. So humidity control has to be taken into consideration. So I request immediately engineering to look into it, act on it before it takes its own action. And regarding the advocacy, I know that the letter has been published, posted, so I'll read it. But also, two things are very important that we have been lobbying for: impact fees on builders towards the school. That is the number one. The resolution was passed by the Board of Education, also the council, and we public request you all to lobby for that. It is a high-hanging fruit, but let's start it. And secondly, there are 3 bills on special education. So we in public are lobbying for that. I request the BOE is lobbying for that. I hope it is there in the posted letter. Then coming to 2020, 2021 trailers. I'll tell you, before you take action in September, there is a committee going on, what are the new plans. So be careful, because there are several ideas. We may not need trailers. We have to think out of the box. So before you jump to the conclusion, there are many ways we can redistribute the students, and you can see many of the proposals are coming by 31st. So please read those proposals which are coming in, okay? So don't jump in and order trailers for 2021, because we want to know actual growth of the students and how we can manage them, okay? So that is the request. Regarding the sidewalks, the comment again, I'll be talking to the council, and I'll be going there with friends. I think when the builder builds, it is requirement that sidewalks are there, okay? I went to Europe, they use bicycles. We don't have bicycle tracks here. Let the people in the community have sidewalk to walk if they want to walk outside. And it will be good to have sidewalks throughout our township when the builders are building.
30 seconds, sir.
Thank you. So just lobby for that, and I don't think anything else, so I congratulate and happy that most of the committee members, your reports, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anybody else from the public? Please state your name and address.
Yes. My name is Pradeep Melam at 4 Jake Place.
Thank you.
So regarding the subcommittees, I don't see any meetings of the subcommittee meetings are being published in board docs. That's my first point. Why can't we have the minutes of the meetings that are being publicly available on board docs?
I believe the agendas are on board docs.
Agenda is on the board, but not the meeting minutes. The minutes
Well,
of the
we
meeting.
have- We have a meeting coming up on the 30th of July.
No, he means the minutes for the committee meetings.
Oh, the committee meetings. Yeah, aren't they?
Okay, this is the lack of the transparency because most of the items are being discussed very widely and the background of that particular items will be in the subcommittees and they are coming as a line items into the public here. Why can't we have the video recordings of the subcommittees? I don't understand, why can't we have? The second question is, even the minutes of meeting of the BOE meeting, they are coming out as yes, no, and who opposed, who accepted, or who voted yes for that particular meeting. But there is no cross-question details, there is no comments details are being published. They might be videotaped, but they are not being published thoroughly.
So,
I'm not finished
I
yet.
know, go ahead.
it's okay.
Go ahead.
And I skimmed through all the minutes of the meetings from the September meeting of last year. I didn't see any closed session details have been revealed. So when are they will be revealed? So every time you go to closed session, you'll read a standard statement that it will be available publicly when it is appropriate. When is the appropriate time? And why can't you guys record the closed sessions if you don't have time and resources to document the closed sessions? Why can't you record it and whenever it is appropriate, upload it? We can watch it at our own time. If you don't have money for these transparency acts, you can get it from other resources like your Atlantic trip. Finally, I have one straight question. There was a specific meeting regarding the media person relations. I have a question to the BOE. Who publishes on the Facebook Monroe Falcons page?
Could you say that again? Who publishes what?
Who maintains and publishes the posts on Monroe Falcons page?
I know it's the board president or the superintendent that does that.
Yeah, but in the recent events, somebody answered a public question here asked in the Monroe Facebook page. Can we take that as the board stand?
Not if it's not been published by the board president or the board or the
Okay,
superintendent.
then
If it's a community member, I would say, I'm not sure. I don't know what would be written there.
is that an official page for our Board of Education and our township, our school district?
For a Facebook page?
Yes.
There's a Monroe Township School District Facebook page,
Yes. If somebody posts on that particular page, not as a comment, but as a post, if somebody posts there, can we take that as our school district standing on that particular topic?
No,
Why can't?
because it's not the school district posting, it's someone commenting on a school district
I'm
post.
not
If
talking
the
about
school
comments, I'm
district
talking about the
posts
30
postings.
seconds.
Nobody can post other
the-
than owner of the particular
If the
page.
school district posts it,
Yes.
yes, it's a school district
Okay.
post. But
So-
if someone comments on it, I would say no.
Is your policy somewhere stating that the answers are asked by the public are being discussed on the Facebook page? Are you going to answer all the questions that are being asked there?
That's a discussion that I haven't had a chance to have with the Board of Education because that is a 24/7 job for someone to do. So I don't know what the answer to that is yet.
So
Okay,
your
thanks.
time is up. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
but I'm expecting some kind of behavior, or some kind of recordings and meeting minutes for the subcommittees and detailed meeting minutes. If not, I'm gonna take this to the court. That is happened, if you guys remember,
Okay,
in
that's your
2010 and
prerogative.
11.
We'll do the best we can. Anybody else?
Roger Maney, 22 Harrigan Avenue. I had a couple questions. First, I was at the same planning board as Mr. Peluri, and I don't remember anybody saying, go ahead and take this to the school board and have it voted on. The places you're talking about putting sidewalks are front doors 14 feet from a curb. You put a sidewalk in, a grass apron, and then another grass apron, you might as well have people walking through the living rooms of those homes. These homes have been there for 100 years. These are not new construction. These were beach bungalows, and they swam in the lake over at the American Legion in the 20s. Okay? There is no reason to be talking about putting sidewalks in places where people have paid $3,000 to $5,000 to have the front of their house paved with asphalt in order to park in something that isn't mud, and to take that and to put it somewhere else. Okay? My area, and I'm the only one. If there's anybody here who lives north of First Avenue, raise your hand. Okay. So I'm the only one. I don't see anybody from my neighborhood asking for sidewalks. Woodland receives one courtesy bus for that area. Okay? To put sidewalks in would cost millions. You'd have to rerun the sewers. You'd have to put them in a different place. And then are you going to go with force mains? You're going to go with gravity mains? What are you going to do there? Because they just ran all the new utilities 5 years ago that the township and the county put money into. You know, there's a lot more than just, yeah, let's pop sidewalks in. And I do believe Mr. Razumowitz said something like, we'll have to look into it into the future. There was no direction to take it to the school board for a vote to put in sidewalks in neighborhoods. And if there is, I'd like the minutes produced from that planning board meeting saying so. My only other question was, we're now using Durham School Service for busing. How much cheaper were they than Mercy?
I don't have the difference between Durham and Mercy, but I will tell you that it went out to bid through the Middlesex Regional Head Service Commission, and they were deemed to be the lowest bidder, so we're required to accept that bid.
Okay, because my fear, I mean, I know that Mercy wasn't all hot, but they kind of got their routes under control after a couple months and learned it. Now we're bringing in a new school bus service, and we're going to run into the same problems of people not knowing their stops, where to go, and everything else, and the delays happening that we heard about when Mercy first came aboard. So I'm kind of thinking, you know, sometimes saving a couple bucks here or there is going to cost us a lot more down the road as far as aggravation. But, you know, that's just my input on that. It's already contracted. I don't know what the cost difference would be. But, all right. But the sidewalk thing, I mean, I was at the planning board meeting, and I even spoke there, and there was no, you know, go ahead, take it to a vote at the school board and see what they say. That was not said one time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, my name's Charlie DePiro. I am a councilman in Monroe Township. I'm a fire commissioner, and I'm a resident, 404 Spotswood Gravel Hill Road. I'm speaking as a resident. As reference to the sidewalk, there's a board member on the planning board here that's made a statement that no funds have been waived. He just went through a subdivision called the Longo property that no funds were received and no sidewalks are being done. And that's close to your Oak Tree schools and your Applegard school, this property. There's another one on this road called Gina Cola's property, right across the street from the park, that no money was given to the town for waivers. In fact, Walter Toto, the attorney, made it clear when he came there, he used those subdivisions that he went through and used them as an example. As a councilman, I pushed hard to get that $547,000 freed up for the taxpayers. And the board and the mayor agreed, and we did it. We got it accomplished. We put in sidewalks on Ellingham Avenue and there was $130,000 in a change order. That money was allocated at $547,000 towards that project. Also, we just did another project called Daniel Ryan Fields. Same thing. So I've sent numerous emails to our township attorney, and I'm still waiting to see if this money that you guys are requesting from the mayor and council be used for sidewalks for schools, okay? You went through a subdivision called Devonshire right next to Brookside School with no sidewalks. Mr. Gorski knows what I'm talking about. Had no sidewalks. The Board of Ed had to put sidewalks from Devonshire to Brookside. You just went through Gary Fleischhauser subdivision, which you guys are well aware of. No sidewalk in the cul-de-sac, only a sidewalk on 522. So I think when Jay Brown was on the board and he was on the planning board, I think that's something that you guys should be looking at instead of looking at the town to mop up the planning board waivers, as he sits on that planning board and they grant waivers, which he's saying that it wasn't done. I can give him more examples because I've been here for over 50 years and I watched them give waivers and no money exchanged and leaving the taxpayers to pay the bill. It's happening with the infrastructure, with traffic lights, as he's supporting the traffic light by my house. There's 10 different developers that came and gone, and not one penny was allocated for that $1.7 million improvement. So I'm supporting the sidewalks. I'm supporting moving the money towards it. I've asked the township attorney. I'm waiting for a response. I'm waiting for a response if they can allocate that money to help the school board put up sidewalks for the children, safety. But however, I put the question back on the planning board members, why are you granting waivers? There should be no waivers. Let's stick to the master plan and let's build what we say we're going to build. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Chrissy Skirby, 21 Preakness Drive. Before I begin, I just want to be clear that my comments are not directed toward Mr. Trefano, Mr. Chiarello, or Ms. Arminio. I am utterly disappointed that the resignation of Mr. Goodall is on the agenda tonight. Since coming to Monroe in 2005, Mr. Goodall has proven to be an administrator for the kids. The staff, parents, students alike have so much admiration and respect for Mr. Goodall. He's done so much to move our district forward for our students. This year alone, he has helped so many for the special needs to make so many strides for the special needs students that have positively changed their lives. Last year, the Board of Ed voted unanimously to appoint Mr. Goodall as acting superintendent. He came in with the full support of the community, parents, staff, and students, and we had a great year under his leadership in this district. The board then voted to not conduct an external search for superintendent and interviewed only 2 internal candidates. It was all done secretively. The public was not involved, the teachers' union was not involved, no administration was involved, only you, the Board of Ed members. While most thought it was a slam dunk that Mr. Goodall would be appointed superintendent based on his outstanding year he served as acting and his many years of service as principal, no one wanted to believe that the personal agendas would prevail. We have a school district that isn't led by what is right for the students. We don't look at what will help students get into better colleges. We care about personal vendettas and personal agendas. Mr. Goodall came in as acting superintendent, and his first job was to get rid of a parent group I founded at the middle school. You people spent a year fighting parents of a parent group instead of focusing on what was truly important. Mr. Goodall gave a great speech to the graduating seniors this year at graduation. He spoke about loyalty to coworkers and colleagues. I know the Board of Ed members present couldn't hear the speech on stage, but I recommend you go back and listen. You can learn something from it because you lack any sort of loyalty. You are about backroom deals, political opportunities, and self-gain. Mr. Goodall didn't get appointed superintendent because his moral compass points in the right direction and you couldn't get him to change that. While myself and many in our school and community will miss Mr. Goodall. I wish him well, and I am happy that he will be rid of you people and your lies, secret plans, and unethical practices. I can only hope that we will all witness the day when the universe rights the wrongs that you have caused. I don't know how any of you can look yourselves in the mirror knowing how you have caused so much discourse in our district.
Anyone else from the public? He's always a gentleman.
Oh, very nice of him. He didn't see me hiding back there. Gail DePayne, 356C Old Nassau Drive. Just a couple of quick questions. I'm used to seeing board minutes a lot. You guys had a lot of great committee reports tonight, very thorough, very great to listen to. Do you have a student services committee here in this district? Where they handle only student issues? Because I'm regarding that closed session one. Do you have you don't have a student services?
We don't have a student services.
You don't? Okay. I think it's a good idea to put one together that can handle some of these things outside, and then you don't have to bring them back, and people, like the gentleman said, he had to wait for a resolution. So I don't know if that needed an attorney or not. I know some do, some don't, but some of them can be handled on a board level through a student services committee, and then that committee just reports like you guys all did tonight. But I mean, great job. Another one is on page 8. Mrs. Dowd is going to check your defibrillators, and it's so much fun. I just want to know how many defibrillators in this district, and how long does it take to check a defibrillator?
Depends on the school.
It's difficult to answer. I know we have multiple defibrillators located in the schools. We also have mobile defibrillators for the athletics department to bring on a golf court in case an emergency ever happens. We have them in all public buildings.
Okay.
Staff are trained on them. They're regularly serviced. But I couldn't give you an exact number on how many.
Okay, well, just curious to see somebody was doing that for the site. And then one big question too, on all your resignations and all the people that are leaving, to me, I'm not used to just seeing a name and resignation and this and that. Usually it would say how much time they had left and how much it's costing you for that person to leave or resign from this district, so that the public can see how much it's going to cost the Board of Education for that person. How many years did they have left? 25? That's a lot of money you're getting from this district. I'm just saying it's not transparent enough to list all the people that are resigning and retiring and everything without putting the years and the expense that it costs you to pay them to leave. I mean, I think that's something that everybody should see.
Well, we do celebrate people who are retiring, with
But it's
plaques
not
and
in your,
nonsense.
but it's not in your board minutes, not the celebration, the part of how much it costs this district for that person to retire.
Well, I certainly would defer to the superintendent on this, but I think some of this would fall under a personnel type thing.
Right, it's a personnel
You know,
issue, and I don't think it's anything that should be hidden. It should be transparent. I think it's something the public should see. Am I right, Ms. Superintendent?
I'm not sure. I'd have to check on that. We've
Okay.
never done it in the past.
You've never, I just
And-
want to
and
know
I'm-
if you've done it
I'm not
before.
exactly sure what you're referring to, what we would pay out someone who leaves
Yes,
the district?
yes, yes.
I think that's a personnel issue. I don't think that's something that we can disclose.
It is. I've been on a board that disclosed it, and people could see how much these people are getting as they retire.
They get it because it's part of their contract.
Exactly.
Contract.
But it was public, in public minutes. So I just want to know, could somebody just look into it to see if
I
that
can
could
look
be
into
more
it.
transparent for everybody in the public to see?
Well, we'll look into it.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you.
Good evening, Doug Poy, 4 Tamarack Road. My questions or comments concern the harassment, intimidation, and bullying report that was given earlier this evening. I had difficulty seeing the screen, but it appeared to me that the number of cases was significantly higher for the same period compared to last year. So I was a little concerned about that, and I was just wondering what might be the cause. And the reason I have that concern is because I was speaking to a former colleague of mine who is a principal at also a very large high school, who indicated that that high school was experiencing a significant increase in cases of like this, where there's a lack of civility. I was wondering also, and you don't necessarily have to answer that question, but it's something to think about, how do we engage the parents of those students that are found to have committed this lack of civility toward their fellow classmates? If we're not doing something to involve the parent in it, I don't think we can necessarily expect the student to make the necessary adjustments that they don't continue to commit such acts. And then finally, and I don't know if they exist, but are there any legal recourses available to the school district for students who commit more than one such act of lack of civility toward fellow students? I just feel that when one student suffers from harassment, intimidation, or bullying, it has such a negative impact, not only on that student's self-esteem, but also on that student's ability to learn. And I don't think that this is something that, you know, we can just gloss over, give a report, and I'm not trying to say that that's all you've done tonight, it's just give a report to give the report. But I would ask that we look into involving the parents more in those cases, try to determine why there's been such an increase compared to previous years, and have other high schools experience that as well. And then finally, do we have any legal recourses? Can we take them to municipal court, the parents or that student? And that might bring a little bit more to bear upon students that commit those acts. And the word would get around that, hey, this is not something you want to engage in. There are consequences that are quite severe, more than just maybe a suspension. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Not seeing anyone else, we'll close the public forum, and we're ready for number 10, Superintendent's report recommendation. Dr. Albert?
Yes. So, as it always is, the high school graduation was a wonderful event celebrating our high school seniors. So I would like to thank the high school administration and the staff members, including Deb Van Loo, for organizing it to run so smoothly and making it a true celebration. As you can see from the agenda, we're continuing to interview and hire candidates for our open positions so that we will be fully staffed in September. I want to congratulate Eileen Kelly, who retired July 1st. She worked in the 40 years teaching in New Jersey public schools. The last 31 were here at the high school. As was mentioned already, Mr. Goodall has submitted a letter of resignation from Monroe. I wish him all the best in his new role and thank him for all that he has done in the Monroe Township High School and as the acting superintendent during the last year. We will work to fill his position with the best qualified candidate. I just wanted to do a quick report on the ad hoc committee. I know that's come up a few times. So the ad hoc committee has received 22 proposals to date. And we do have a meeting planned on July 30th, 6:30 here in the Media Center to start reviewing the proposals as a committee so that we can decide on next steps for the committee. Every Friday, the committee gets an email with any additional proposals. On the agenda this evening is our results from the New Jersey Quality Single Accountability Continuum, which is the New Jersey QSAC. We spent the past year gathering documents for all indicators for our site review. We received a letter from the county office on June 27th that we've passed in all areas. I know fiscal management was already mentioned in finance, so fiscal management, governance, and personnel all received perfect scores, 100 out of 100. In operations, we lost points in one area because although we conduct annual transportation drills, we did not have it board approved on the agenda. We have since corrected that, and it was shared with the visiting QSAC team, but we did lose a couple of points there. For program and instructions, we received all points for our curriculum and our programs. They met all of the requirements that are needed for the QSAC, which includes modifications for all of our groups of students and meeting all of the standards. For the first half of the program and instructions, the state actually calculates points in the assessment and the graduation areas. So it's based on our park scores, it's based on the percentage of students taking the park, it's based on our attendance scores and our graduation rate. We received 46.8 points out of 60, which gave us an 87 in program and instruction. The requirement is above an 80% in all areas. So the state letter will be available on the district website tomorrow with that information. I've also received several questions about freshman orientation since it was cut from the budget. I'm actually meeting with the high school administration tomorrow to see how we can ensure that students will get a chance to tour the school prior to the first day to make them feel more comfortable as they're coming into the school. And the high school administration will communicate any plan to parents and freshmen once it's been finalized. So, yes.
CUSAC, in the past, we've had a waiver for CUSAC because of our high scores.
No, what happens is every 5 years, we're required to have the site visit. In between that, we just do a statement of assurance where we
Okay.
give them our information. But every 5 years, they're required to come in. Now, CUSAC changed this year. There were different indicators. So it was a different process where they have 3 cohorts in Middlesex County. We were in the first cohort to go through the new process.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Just for clarification, did you say that we are going to reinstate a high school orientation this year?
No, I did not say that. We are looking at ways that we can make sure that students can come and visit the high school before the first day.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. So it is recommended that the board approve the attached personnel items A through AN. N is in Nancy.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any questions, comments? Mr. Mayo, second. Any questions, comments?
A quick question to Dr. Alwick. You said that you received 21 or 22 proposals so far?
22.
22. Now, when you receive them, do you submit them as they are, all of them, to the
Yes.
ad hoc committee, or do you filter any of those
I do
down?
not filter any. The only thing I do is I take out the email address that it came from and any name that's on there, or phone number or address, because some people have put that on there. And then I put them together in a packet, and I send them the entire packet to the ad hoc committee. In fact, for the couple of weeks there, it's been so busy for me, didn't even have a chance to read them before I sent them out.
Okay. 100% of the proposals that you're getting from public are being transmitted to the ad hoc committee?
Yes, there is one currently right now in the email, in the ad hoc email, that will go out to the committee on Friday.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Gorski?
Mr. Tufano?
Yes.
Mr. Ryback?
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky?
Yes.
Mrs. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Pelori?
Yes.
Mrs. Arminio?
Yes on everything, abstain on R.
So noted. Mrs. Siegel?
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo?
Yes.
Mr. Board President, personnel items have passed.
Thank you.
Okay, it is recommended that the board approve board action items A through O. I have O.
Is it A through P, or, my agenda says A through P.
What's P?
I believe it.
Changed?
I believe it's P.
It's P, I'm sorry. Okay, so board action items A through P.
Can you tell, I think I might have,
Yeah, I don't have P.
Yeah. You have O also?
You have the O.
no, I have it, but
I have
that's what I'm saying. What
What's
on the
P?
new agenda, what page are
In
you
a
on?
second.
P is the Ed Service Commission New Jersey representative team.
So last month, I was appointed as the person, but it's the different name, so we just changed the
I know,
title of
that's
the
not-
name.
But that's not the question. What page are you on from 8? I think I might have abstained on the wrong thing, that's why I wanted.
Page is not numbered.
Well, this is a different,
I understand
That's what
that,
she
because I
means.
thought I
It
was,
starts over again at A. Oh, I see what
can
you're
you just
saying.
tell me the page, please?
I don't have page numbers on mine.
I
It
think it's
ends
page
at page 18.
We're on page 18?
Yeah, I don't have P.
You abstained on R, that was R under personnel.
Right.
We're now under board action, which
But-
starts at A again.
But I think I have the wrong, because, R under personnel, that's incorrect, Mr.
It's P.
Gorski.
Yes, go ahead.
So let it be noted for the minutes that Mrs. Arminio wishes to change her abstention by deleting it. There will be no abstention on item R.
Right.
So she votes affirmatively on
Yeah,
all items.
yes.
So noted.
Okay, so now go to what you're.
Do you have the board action there, Ms. Arminio? Is it-
Yes, and I do need to abstain on something, so I have to find it.
16, 17, and 18.
Mrs. Board Action,
Well-
pages 16 through 18.
Just call me last and I'll figure it out.
Well, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Do
Yeah.
we have a second?
Second.
Okay, now we can have discussion or questions. Any discussion or question?
So repeat that again, A through what?
A through P.
P.
So many, you have you're gonna have a question on this?
No, I don't have a question, just, I have to find what I have to abstain at, that's all.
Okay,
So you can call the vote,
okay.
This is board action items A through P. Mrs. Siegel.
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky.
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo.
Yes.
Mr. Tufano.
Yes and no on H.
No on H, so noted. Mr. Pelori.
Yes.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Mrs. Lang.
Yes.
When it was R.
And we conclude with Mrs. Armini.
No, I'll vote yes on everything, I have to change my vote back again,
So
on the
noted.
first one.
Mr. Board President, board action items A through P has passed unanimously.
Thank you, and now we're up to you, Mr. Business
That
Administrator.
concludes my superintendent's report.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Board President and Dr. Elvick. Before I get to my business administrator report, I certainly would like to thank Mr. Goodall for his 15 years of collaboration here in the district. We were through many different district crises and challenges together. Mr. Goodall, just from my recollection, was responsible from the time that the locker room sexual assault hit the news years ago to immediately reacting to inspect ours and making sure that ours were all fortified and properly monitored by staff. He also very creatively handled the student protest where students were planning on walking out of the high school. And instead of having students just walk out in a chaotic, disorderly manner, he worked it out with them that the administration would be supporting them walking around the track together. And students expressed themselves constitutionally, which they have the right, and it was very supervised, and they all returned to school. In his acting superintendent role, it was a pleasure to serve with Mr. Goodall through the creation of the budget, which was very challenging. And he offered some very creative ideas to spread resources in different areas. And it was a pleasure serving with him, and I wish him the best. They have a fine school administrator transitioning to Manasquan schools, so I wish him the best. And also, I'd be remiss if I didn't also express as the board secretary a great deal of appreciation for Mr. Al Hadinger for all of his help with the Board of Education. Mr. Al Hadinger handled all of the audio for the school district, which was very challenging at times. We had different microphones, and you know, the public appreciates, I'm sure, all of the board meetings and the clear audio that he was partially responsible for, and also his services here as a teacher. So,
Mr. Gorski, before you go on, and I would imagine Robert's rules allows me to correct a vote? Okay, so I figured it out. On the first personnel item, it happens to be 8 of 23, but it is you. I abstain on you. So
okay, let it be noted for the minutes that for personnel items, Mrs. Arminio votes yes on everything and abstains on you.
Yes, and I also got confused with that, and I'd like to change my vote to H, from no to yes on that H.
On H?
Yeah, that's on the board meeting.
Mr. Tufano voted no on letter H under board action items A through P, and let it be reflected in the minutes that you rescind your vote as no and vote yes on all items.
Correct.
So noted.
Thank you. Sorry about the confusion.
No problem.
So,
to your report.
Yes, sir. Mr. Board President and members of the Monroe Township Board of Education, it is recommended that board action items A through M be approved by consent roll call.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second,
Do we have a
please.
second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion, comments, questions?
A through.
So I have a question.
Sure.
How
Mr.
do we come
Rutsky?
to find on A6, how do we come to find somebody in Waikoloa, Hawaii to be our primary drill designer? And are we paying for his travel expenses?
That's an excellent question, Mr. Chair.
Am I?
Phil Designer is just like a choreographer, and no, we're not paying for their expenses.
It's a little bit of a schlep from,
Yes.
but good for him, good for us.
I'll pick him up.
Okay.
That's a good catch. Okay. yes.
So,
We can
where
vote.
are we?
Mrs. Siegel.
Mr. Gorski.
Yes, but I recuse for myself only on letter H.
Mr. Ryback.
I vote yes, but I recuse for myself on letter H as well.
Mrs. DeMayo.
Yes, but I recuse for myself only on letter H.
Mrs. Lang.
Yes, and recuse for Lang on letter H.
Mr. Peluri.
Yes, and I recuse myself on H.
Mrs. Arminio.
Yes, and recuse on H.
Mr. Rutsky.
Yes on everything, including letter H.
Mr. Tefano.
Yes on everything, no on H.
Mr. Board President, board action items A through M has passed. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right now, we're, item 13, other Board of Education. Oh, I'm sorry, Board President's report, I forgot my report. Just very briefly, I'd like to remind all Board of Education members that we have to complete the board's self-evaluation. That's due July 31st. It's on New Jersey School Board website, but when you go on, I'd like to advise you to, it'll ask you for your district. Please spell out Monroe, spell out Township. If you put TWP, it will get you to the Gloucester County, Monroe Township. But if you spell out Township, it'll get to Middlesex County. So please spell that out, and I appreciate you completing this on or before the 31st of July. And that completes my report for today. So we have other Board of Education business. Mr. Rutsky.
If I could, I just wanted to clarify one thing from my Finance Committee meeting report earlier about the air conditioning unit at the middle school. So for the record, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Gorski, there's 2 air conditioning units at the middle school. We're having difficulty with 1 unit. The other unit will do its best job to keep as much of the school cold as possible, correct?
Mr. President, that's absolutely correct. We have 2 units. One failed right before middle school graduation, which could explain why it felt a little bit warm in there. It will feel a little bit warm operating on 1 unit. Hopefully, as somebody mentioned before, we have a cooler September. We are expediting the installation of the new chiller as soon as possible, but we're required to go through the public bidding process to protect the taxpayers' interest in buying the unit at the lowest competitive price. And the bidding timetable and everything will take us till about October until it's completed and installed.
Gotcha. So I just wanted, there is 1 unit, so I just wanted to clarify that. And if I may, just for Mr. Poy's sake, so I looked at the report on the HIB, and it's not a same-time comparison. It's the first 6 months of this year, which is a full 6 months of school, and the last 6 months of last year, which is really only 4 months of school. So that could, in effect, have something to do with the disparity of the numbers. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
I also want to clarify on the sidewalks, Mr. Amini came up about specific concern about his own house. I don't think the funding is available to take any right-of-way impact. So if there is going to be a sidewalk that's going to be put, it's going to be put in an area where it's feasible and it's practical.
Anybody else? Ms. Arminio.
Go ahead. Let
No,
Ms.
go
Lang
ahead.
Go ahead.
Ms. Lang, did you
No,
want to say?
I was just clarifying, we're on new board
Yeah.
business? Okay.
Other board business.
Other board business, go ahead.
Okay, I would just like to make a plea once again to my colleagues that and I appreciate all of the public input and all the ad hoc committees, again, talking about our need for school construction. However, I would like to make a plea to get a referendum as soon as possible. If we keep delaying, it's just going to be more difficult to move forward. You know, I would actually suggest that since the first referendum, and I know everybody wants the high school, but since the first referendum only failed by 143 votes, we might consider at least just to get that same information up and put it out there again, and then, of course, work on the high school. That's not to diminish our needs for the high school, but I would like us to start reconsidering at least getting something going, some construction, some shovels in the ground for our children. So that's, I don't know if it's thinking out of the box or bringing the old box back and taking a look into it again, but let's do something. We can't keep delaying. And again, I appreciate every person who's giving up their free time and all the 22 ideas that are out there, but we know what we need. We have to get it done, and I'd like us to reconsider getting it on the ballot as soon as possible. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Just echoing the comments that Mr. Arminio made, I think there got to be a timeline that's set up for the ad hoc committee so that it's not in its perpetuity.
An end date, absolutely.
And also, I suggest strongly for the board to consider having a open public meeting, not just necessarily focus on the plans that we're receiving, but also to seek the public input once we get to a phase where we're ready to present the 22 ideas that, the proposal that came on board. I think it should be inviting to the public to come and express their views on what should be the next steps to be taken for our district.
Well, I'm sure the ad hoc committee will be discussing that, and where that happens and the time, that's really up to the committee.
Well, that's the problem. We keep leaving 30 days and 30 days, it turns into 60 days, it turns into 6 months, it turns into a year. We really need to get this, I mean, we just can't keep delaying it because we have to have another discussion. Again, I respect the discussion, but we've been discussing it for 10 years.
I'm not disputing that. I'd like to see it done as quickly as
An end date would be great.
Patty goes first.
I'm sorry.
no, I don't.
No, you don't.
I was clarifying where we were.
So I have a question for Dory.
Sure.
Dr. Alvick, I'm sorry. Dr. Alvick, you touched base on a high school, somewhat of a high school orientation. A lot of parents are concerned about that. They feel their child's going to have a lot of anxiety starting into the big school. Can you just give a little more detail on what you had in mind, or is it in
I don't have any
planning?
detail yet. I'm meeting with the administration tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayo?
I just wanted to thank Claudia Lunan for sharing her deeply personal story with us. I'm sure it wasn't easy for her to do this in such a public forum, and I want to thank you. And maybe Patty can take a look at the policy and we can address that.
Made a note, thank you.
Okay.
Do we have to make a motion for that?
No, not at all. No,
Okay.
I happen to agree. I think that's a very today kind of a topic and something that we need to take a look at.
I agree.
And congratulations again on your beautiful baby. Okay. Any other board member for? Okay, in that case, we can go to the public forum. This time, you're not limited to the agenda, but you still have 4 minutes. I ask that you give your name and your address.
Prakash Purab, 33 Dana Drive. The freshman orientation is very important. If the child is coming to the high school, the freshman orientation must be done. There is no compromise in it, okay? So this is a strong statement because the children are entering into high school. So it is a gateway, and it is so important. There is a stress as well as happiness. So they get a clear idea. So I request Board of Education and administration to think over it, okay, tomorrow's decision. So I don't know when it will be posted, when the public will come to know what decision was taken. So I would like to request tomorrow's decision, when it will be posted somewhere.
The high school administration will notify parents and students when a decision is made.
Okay. When the decision is made, when the orientation is, suppose it was there, when it was supposed to be scheduled. When orientation occurs, just in August or September, before the school starts?
Before school starts.
So the parents will be informed. Okay, I'd like to hear about it in next BOE meeting. The second question, the school, state funding. It is, this year we received about $63,000, $630,000, something more this year? That's the question.
Yeah. I believe that's correct. A lot of information is available on the website.
Yeah.
I would tell everybody from the public to take a look.
So what was given to us in March, whatever before the budget session, same money is allotted to us, not a penny more, or?
That is correct. Prakash is, I believe, referencing last year, we got a post-budget adoption award. We have not received anything yet. We'll certainly notify the Finance Committee if something comes this year.
The last 2 years, I think we did.
Yes.
But I think the state has already decided, isn't it? This is what the governor signed it, and that's the money. Other than that $50 million for special education, I saw Senator Vin Gopal announcing about that.
There was the $50 million under the 2020 Appropriations Act that was dedicated toward emergency aid and also extraordinary aid, which we talked about before, but that's the only additional aid that we've been notified about.
I just beg you all again, the special education is a low-hanging fruit. I talked to Senator Assemblyman Benson and others. They're fully supportive of it. Just push for it. So those bills are approved by December. Then they said, what I heard is they need about $200 million to make sure that money is there. Therefore, if those bills are approved. So I request you all push for those bills for special education. Yeah, I have already written to you all on June 10th. A letter was written to you all. I didn't receive any reply on this. So whenever the public writes to you all, cites the bill, at least say received and we'll act on it, or you don't act on it. So those bills, if we passed, I tell you, I'll guarantee you next year we'll get at least $5 to $6 million more, okay? So that is the ad hoc.
30 seconds.
Huh?
30 seconds, sir. 30 seconds remaining.
Okay, thank you. And ad hoc committee, another one thing, just don't jump to the referendum. The ad hoc committee, there are 22 proposals have come, more proposals will come. Only thing I request BOE, tell the ad hoc committee there should be some timelines. What I heard that out of all the proposals, 4 proposals will be selected, and the 4 proposals will be presented to the public and everyone, and 1 will be selected. So please develop a timeline for that. Thank you very much.
Time's up. Thank you very much.
Roger Maney, 22 Harrigan Ave. I just had a quick question. I meant to ask it earlier and slipped my mind. Are we in any discussion with Jamesburg about the $1.6 million they owe the district?
Mr. President? Yes. As previously reported, there is an agreement, a legally binding agreement that was approved by the Department of Education between the 2 districts a few years ago, and it sets forth a plan which, in short, recognizes that Monroe's per pupil costs at the high school level are decreasing because our budget is capped, our appropriations are limited, but our student enrollment at the high school is continually increasing. Jamesburg, when they have pinned their tuition rate at a previous level, will eventually pass where Monroe's decreasing enrollment costs and then overpay through the budget. That has come to fruition the last 2 years, where Jamesburg has actually overpaid their tuition through the budget, and that has been applied against the arrearage. The arrearage was at its high point, about 1.9 million. It's down to about 1.6 million now. We are very confident that it will be satisfied within the terms of the agreement, and Jamesburg has even been more aggressive than the agreement's requirement by paying and estimating more students in the budget than required and making excess surplus payments toward the arrearage also.
So they're knocking off about $100K a year.
At least. And it is expected to compound where the overpayment through the budget will actually increase every year, thus reducing the arrearage more sharply over the next couple of years.
I just find it strange that the state should dictate our terms when we're in a financial bind and the state isn't doing anything to help us. Why we're listening to them. It baffles me, you know. I know you guys are discussing suing the state and everything else, and one thing I even said to Mr. Polari one night, I said, when does it become cheaper just not to send money to them and let them sue us? We send them $45 million, we get $2 million back. we'd spend less in court. You know, something to think about.
Thank you, Mr. Meany. Anyone else from the public?
Chrissy Skirby, 21 Preakness Drive. I heard it mentioned in the beginning of the meeting. Is it a policy that kindergartners don't have homework?
Could you say that?
Is it a policy? I couldn't hear all the way in the back. Is it a policy that our kindergarten students don't get homework?
Let me answer that.
Yeah, sure.
When we rewrote the policy, so yes, it is a policy. In the regulations of the policy, it talks about kindergarten. The teachers give reading, they give some assignments, but it's the way that the report card listed it was students turn in homework on time. The kindergarten teacher said because they do things like it's the whole week, that it didn't make sense to do that, put that under learner behavior. So they're not given homework as a third or fourth grader are given homework. They're given reading, they're given some practice things. But yes, it is in the regulation.
That there's no homework, or
Not
that
that
it's
there's no homework, that there's no
okay.
homework. I just heard somebody's phone go.
on the report card?
It's an alert.
Yes,
Okay.
that's what we're changing. We're not changing any practices, we're changing we're getting rid of that wording on the report card. That's
Okay,
it.
so the teachers are allowed to assign
Yes,
homework?
yes, we're not changing any practices, we're just changing the wording on the report card.
Okay, thank you.
I think we're getting alerts about a possible flash flood, so I'm going to ask all of you, I mean, you certainly stay, but when you drive home, please be careful. Drive carefully. Anybody else from the public? Sure. Name and address for the record.
Claudia Lunan, 136 Bank Street in Red Bank. And I would just like to sincerely thank you for listening so openly to my story and being open to change and progress. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Seeing no one else in the public, we can move to our closed session resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of Township Monroe hereby moves to go into closed session in accordance with the Sunshine Law, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, NJSA 10:4-6 through 10:4-21, excuse me, to discuss the following subjects: harassment, intimidation, and bullying, discussion regarding memorandum of agreement in connection with the new collective negotiation agreement between the board and the local number 11 affiliated with the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. Following closed session, action may be taken. The discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed in public at such time as the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
So moved.
So move, have a second? Okay, any discussion?
No, let's do it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All in favor? Okay, we should be back in about 20 minutes. So we are back in session. I do have a motion. Motion to approve the previously submitted memorandum of agreement between the Board of Education and the local number 11 affiliated with the International Brotherhood of Teamsters for the period from July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2024. Memorandum of agreement. The board president and the business administrator / board secretary, as the attesting witness, are hereby authorized and directed to sign a collective negotiations agreement which incorporates the terms of the MOA. The business administrator, board secretary, is hereby further authorized and directed to take all necessary steps to implement this action by the Board of Education.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion, questions? In that case, Mr. Gorski, we can have a roll call vote?
Mr. Ryback?
Yes.
Mrs. Lang?
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo?
Yes.
Mr. Tefano?
Yes.
Mr. Pelori?
Yes.
Mrs. Arminio?
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky?
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Board President, motion passes unanimously.
Very good, thank you all. Next scheduled Board of Education meeting is August 21st at 7 p.m. right here at Monroe Township High School. I now will make a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Okay, any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Rutsky, can I get some votes?
Oh, I want the contract signed.
Are we in favor? I need some votes. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes, all in favor,
Yes.
aye.
All right. Thank you. I think that's unanimous. This meeting is adjourned.